Guys, so for this little sequence, we are going to work a little bit into bandhas, core, and a little bit of strengthening of the glutes and the hip flexors. So I know some of my ladies who come to my Thursday morning group always love a little bit of hip flexor and hip strengthening. So rather than stretching, which we do a lot of in yoga, and especially with the hips, this is focusing more on that strengthening element. So you might want to have a block for these ones, and you're going to begin by coming down onto the floor. So we're going to begin by playing around a little bit with your bandhas. So bandha means lock in Sanskrit, and there is 3 major bandhas. We're going to play around with 2 of them today. And the third one, the Jalandhara or the throat bandha, is often used just in the pranayama practice. I'm going to do another video with the pranayama practice of the bandhas. So we can just have a little play around with them here. So just come in with feet on the floor. So lower back is in a neutral position. And we're going to start with Mula bandha. So Mula means root. So this is the root lock or the root bandha. And Mula bandha is just the engagement of the pelvic floor. So your pelvis is like a big ball, and the bottom of that ball or the base of that ball, there's lots of muscles that interlink. So all you do when you engage your pelvic floor is you're kind of interlocking and drawing those pelvic muscles up. So what we're going to start to do is just play around a little bit here. So bandhas, we tend to use them on the exhalation. So we inhale as normal. And as we exhale, we slightly engage the pelvic floor. So there's that little bit of kind of lifting up sensation or drawing up sensation. And then we can release. And then we just do this a couple more rounds. Again, we inhale, we exhale, draw up. And just see what happens to your lower back and the pelvis. And then again, release. And again, one more round. And then we're going to start to work into Uddiyana bandha. So Uddiyana means to lift up. So again, this is those kind of core muscles. So all we do here is we imagine is that little bit of string from the belly button in towards the spine. So we inhale, and this time as we exhale, we slightly draw in. And again, just take that moment to see what happens a little bit to the pelvis and the lower back. Again, inhale, release. Again, exhale, draw in. And then we're going to do both of these at the same time, which to me is that real strength of the body. So, and again, really worth seeing what happens to the shape of the lower back here. So again, we inhale as normal. And as we exhale, we draw up the pelvic floor, so Mula bandha, and we suck in the belly, Uddiyana bandha. You don't really need to draw up and in, like really strongly. Just have a little bit of lifting up, drawing in. Again, release. Exhale, draw up, draw in. And again, one more round. And then we can release. So now we're going to play around a little bit with these bandhas in some pauses or some strengthening work here. So we're just going to bring our head onto the floor, and we're just going to bring our knees up onto our chest. And we can clasp the hands together. So with core work and bandha work, I always think less is more. So you always want to feel it in your abdominal muscle. You don't want to feel it in your back. And again, less is more. So it's always worth backing off that little bit with core work. You don't want to really overdo it. So again, we can inhale here. We bring the arms up over the head. We take the feet towards the floor. There's that little bit of curve of the lower back there. Feet hover off the floor. And then again, as we exhale, we draw up the pelvic floor, we suck the belly in, so we engage Mula bandha, Uddiyana bandha. It lifts the knees up onto the chest, and again, lower back moves into the floor. And again, a couple more rounds. So again, really gentle. So we use those bandhas. So as we inhale, there's a little curve of the lower back, but as we exhale, we draw up the pelvic floor, we suck the belly in, and it kind of lifts those legs back up onto the chest. It's almost effortless. And then we can take it that little bit further. So now we're just going to bring our knees in line with our hips. So every time we lift the legs, obviously it's a little bit more work for the abdominal area, the core area. It's also a little bit of work for the quads and the glutes. And again, we can bring those hands underneath the back of the head. And again, the same thing here. We inhale. There's that little curve of the lower back here, so a little bit of space under the lower back. And then again, as we exhale, we draw up the pelvic floor. And we slightly curve in. And again, a few more rounds. And then we can just take that moment there. And then the abdominal muscles, I always think, are a bit like a corset. So some of them kind of run down, some of them kind of run across. So we're going to work a little bit kind of across the body now. So we're going to come back to that starting position. So again, knees in line with hips. We're going to clasp the hands behind the back of the head. We're going to take an inhalation here. But this time, as we curl in, we're going to slightly take our legs one way and our head the other. We're going to inhale, knees back in line with hips, head on the floor, exhale, opposite direction. And again, we can do a couple more rounds, so equal amounts to each side. And again, we're not really lifting the head, we're kind of supporting the head, so we don't want to take any tension into the neck. And when we've done equal amounts to each side, we can bring the head back down onto the floor. And then we're just going to hug those knees a little bit into the chest. So just have that little bit of a rock out here. So now we're going to start to work a little bit into our hips. So we're going to maybe rest the head on a block for these ones. And we're going to start bringing our knees up into the chest. And then we're just going to stretch our legs back up towards the ceiling here. So what we want to do to begin with is we want to bring the inside edges of the feet to touch. And again, the inside of the ankles to touch. And all we're going to start to do here is we're going to take an inhalation. And as we exhale, we're going to start to take the knees out to the sides. We're almost going to a body canal circle. We're trying to bring the soles of the feet together. And then we're going to try and keep those feet touching as much as we can as we go back up the ceiling. And again, a few more. And then the next time we come in, we can all kind of come into like a bound Baddha-Konasana, so bring the soles of the feet together, knees flopped out to the side. Take a moment here. And then we can come back to center. And then the next time we're going to take the legs back up towards the ceiling. And now we're going to come into that little hip rotation, which I love. So generally we do this with the band as a very passive stretch. We're going to do it now as a very active stretch. So all we're going to start to do is kind of that rotating the legs outwards. So we kind of come to that kind of Charlie Chaplin feet. And then we rotate the whole legs inwards as we come to that pigeon feet. So again, normally we do this as that passive stretch, but again, it can be a very active hip strengthener and quad strengthener. And then we're going to slowly bring the knees back in and just have that little rock out from side to side. So the next little one now is going to work a little bit into kind of hips and core. So we're going to bring our legs back up towards the ceiling and quads, obviously, whenever the legs are lifted, and a little bit of glute there. So we're going to cross those ankles and we're just going to circle those legs a little. then we're going to go in the opposite direction. And then we're going to come back to centre and we're going to change the cross. And again, the same thing. Circle. And then in the opposite direction. And then again back to centre. And then the next one, again working to glutes and hips, is we're going to bring the soles of the feet together and we're going to have our knees popped out to the side. We're going to bring the head off the block and we're going to again clasp those hands in the head. So for this one, we're going to take an inhalation and we're going to exhale, lift the legs off the floor, engage those banders. We're going to inhale, we're going to exhale, lift the head off the floor, look down towards the feet. Hold here, so again the lower back is pressing into the floor, so again banders are engaged, and then again we can lower. Curve comes back to the little back, to the lower back side. We can again inhale, exhale, engage the banders, lift the legs, inhale, exhale, engage banders, lift the head, look towards the feet, and then again relax. And again a couple more rounds. And again, one more. And then again, we can just release. And then we can just bring our knees back into the chest and have that little rock out here. So the next couple of ones we're going to do is work a little bit into the glutes. So we're just going to drop our feet down onto the floor here. So we're going to come into like a bridge position, but again, rather than working into bridge to really kind of get a back bend, we're going to work into bridge to get our quads and our glutes firing. So we're using it as a strengthener as opposed to a stretch. So relaxing arms down by the sides, tuck the chin in. Feet again are roughly stacked underneath the knees or wherever they would be for your usual bridge position. We're going to really press into the heels and press into the big toes. We're going to take an inhalation and we're going to lift up as we exhale. Again, we're not lifting up too high, so we don't want to take our belly kind of beyond our kind of hip flexors. We want it kind of a little bit lower. So again, we want to get our quads firing, but we also want to really get our glutes firing. So we're really pressing into the heels and even slightly pulling the knees in towards us to get the quads firing, and then lowering back down. And then walking those feet a little bit wider. And again, same thing, lift up. We don't have to go all the way up. We're going to keep the ribs lower. Again, we're going to press into the heels. We're going to pull the knees in towards each other. So again, we've got glutes, quads firing, and then we're going to lower. And then final one, we're going to bring the feet closer in than we would normally do for bridge. And again, inhale, exhale, press into the heels, pull the thighs towards each other. And again. And then we're going to take the hands a little bit out of the equation. So we're going to come back to our starting bridge position. Now we're going to come into what I was thinking was real robot arms, where our palms are facing each other. So we've still got a little bit of force there with the elbows. So again, inhale. Or actually lift on whatever you prefer. I always lift on the exhalation. So again, you don't have to. Again, press into the heels. Pull the thighs towards each other. Don't go all that way up. And again, lower. Take the feet a little bit wider. Again, press into the heels. Pull the thighs towards each other. And again, lower. And final one, that feet a little bit closer. And again, lower. And then the last one, we're going to take our hands completely out of the equation. So I just rest my hands here across my belly. Again, we're going to have, starting that traditional bridge position, we're going to again press into the heels. Pull the thighs towards each other, pull the knees in towards each other. And then lower. Again, take those feet a little bit wider. And again, lower. And then finally, feet closer. And if you want to, again, play around a little bit with glutes, core and quads, and a little bit of hip strength in here, you can kind of lift into a bridge, but again, stay low, so not coming right up into the back bend, keeping the ribs low. And then again, kind of try not to shift your weight too much as you lift one leg up. And again, you don't have to take it all the way up, so a little bit. You can even play around a little bit with hip rotation here. And just lift, even a little bit of internal, external rotation. And then lower. And then again, opposite side, lift. Again, try not to shift over too much. Bring that leg up. And we can play around a little bit here with hip rotation. All lift up, hip rotation. And then again, drop back down. And lower. And again, we can do one more to each side. Lift up, shift. And then again, opposite side, lift up, press, don't tilt the pelvis. And just bring the knee up. You can play around a little bit there with hip rotation, or a little bit of hip rotation. And then again, we can lower. And then final last one we're going to do here. Again, we're going to stretch out one leg. So we're going to stretch out the right leg here. We're going to lift up again. We're going to try and keep the pelvis level. And we're just going to try and take that kind of right leg up. So it's kind of toes and hip, shoulder. They're kind of roughly in line. So you don't need to take it too high. And then you can lower. And then we can go again. There's a lot of work going on here. And then we can lower. And then again, swap sides. And then we can bring both knees in. We can have that little rock out of the lower back here. Circling those knees in one direction and then in the opposite direction. And then just taking a couple moments here to relax. So